First Chronicles chapter 4, verse 9 to 10. And Jabez was more honorable than his brethren. And the Bible says, and his mother called his name Jabez. Now, if you read it like this from the KJV or the modern translations, you would not get the full picture. The whole story of Jabez here is captured in just 2 verses. And is broken into 3 phases. Number 1, it starts with the end of the story. Then number 2, it starts with the condition that Jabez found himself as a result of his birth and the proclamations of his mother. Then the next verse, verse 10, tells us what he did to change the tides. So let's go back to verse 9. And Jabez was more honorable than his brethren. That was the end of Jabez's life. But the Bible says the beginning of the story is that the mother called his name Jabez, meaning sorrow, pain, because I bear him in sorrow. Are we following the story now? So Jabez from verse 9 was a gentleman who grew up experiencing all kinds of woes in his life, and the Bible says the mother went through excruciating pain in childbirth, and in anger and annoyance she called the child Jabez. Verse 10, the Bible says, and Jabez called on the God of Israel. Called on the God of Israel. The Bible does not say Jabez lamented over his situation helplessly. The Bible did not say Jabez went around in hopelessness and despair. The Bible says somewhere along the lines of Jabez's growth process, he found out that there was a God in heaven who could change the narrative of men's lives. Is somebody learning now? And the Bible says when he found out, whoever it was that taught Jabez about God, the Bible does not tell us, at least not in this chapter, but then we know that Jabez eventually found out that there is a God in heaven who is the God of Israel. Then the Bible says Jabez called on the God of Israel, saying, oh, that thou wouldest bless me indeed. Number 1, I'm establishing our prayer points tonight. This is the whole miracle service tonight. Number 2, enlarge my coast. Enlarge my coast. Number 3, let your hand be with me. Then number 4, that thou would keep me from evil, that it may not grieve me. I like the ending part. And God granted him that which he requested. Please look up. Don't assume you understand what you just read. The Bible never said God granted him what he wanted. The Bible never said God granted him what he cried for. The Bible never said God granted him what he needed. It says God granted him what he requested. Is someone learning now? So let's discuss Jabez very briefly. Number 1, I have taught you here, and the word Jabez means he makes sorrowful. That means the memory of that individual brings pain and causes pain. Jabez can be a person and Jabez can be a situation. Now, please look up. We're not teaching tonight. We have the weeks following to teach. But I want to show you something in the Bible. Every name you see in the Bible is not just the name of an individual. Every name you see in the Bible is a spiritual pathway that, if followed, will produce a kind of believer. Are we together? So when you see Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Mary, Samson, all of these names in the Bible, they are names of individuals, but in those names are also spiritual pathways that, if followed, will produce a kind of believer. Are we together now? So the name Abraham is the name of an individual, but that name is also a capture of a spiritual pathway that can turn anybody to become a father of nations. So the Bible says, look unto Abraham your father. Are we together now? Look unto him does not mean just see him. No. Are we together? So when you see Sarah, Isaac, Jacob, all of these, lay your hands on your head and declare that your name will be a pathway to knowing God. Go ahead and pray. Declare it from the depth of your heart. Lord, in my lifetime, my name will also be a spiritual pathway that will help men to know God in a certain way. Someone is praying. Hallelujah. So if you understand what I said now, you will know that Jabez, look up please, Jabez was not just the name of a person. Jabez is a capture of how men can turn the tides of curses, of yokes, of ill speakings to become a life of honor and dignity and grace. Are we together now? So the whole story here is not just a revelation of a young man who was seemingly cursed by his mother, who found his way out to glory. No, there is a spiritual pathway, and this is what I want you to get.